Hi guys, how you doing? I've been away for a while, but I'm just back just to do a quick video. This one's going to be about psychiatric drugs and why there's so much fraud in them. In order to do this, I'll quickly look at the history of psychiatric drugs, where it all started from, and why we've got so much fraud today. To do this, we'll look at the first antipsychotic drug or neuroleptic drug, which was chlorpromazine, also known as Thorazine. Now, this was introduced in the United States in the 1950s with a big marketing campaign conducted by the pharmaceutical company Smith Kline French. And the company president was a man called Francis Boyer. And they devised like a television program called The March on Medicine, where they tried to convince psychiatric practitioners and government officials in the benefits of using this new drug. At the time there wasn't any CT scanner because it had only been invented in the 1970s. The MRI wasn't around. Positron emission tomography wasn't around to the year 2000. They never even knew how the drug worked. Can you believe it? They had no idea how it worked. All they knew was that they found that originally it was developed for people who were having anesthesia. Henry Laborit then found that it sedated people, and he passed it on to a psychiatrist, Pierre Denica, and he tested it on patients and saw that patients who had previously been very violent, non-responsive, were given this drug, and suddenly, they began to improve. But they never had any, they never had any clinical trials. They never knew how it worked. They never knew anything about the drug. They never even knew what long-term exposure to this drug might do. It could, before we know, cause that irreparable damage. They never did any kind of test. All they did was give it to some patients. Well, the symptoms improved, so then they rolled it out with this big marketing campaign. And it was all done for money, because Smith Kline French had bought the rights to this drug, and they were selling it to all these different agencies, and it was rolled out to millions of people. Now, in the 1960s, there was a Senate inquiry by Senator Estes Kefauver, and what they found was that many of the journals which were promoting the use of chlorpromazine were given vast amounts of money by the drug company to push forward the idea that this drug was like the new miracle cure. And people that were writing stories about chlorpromazine were reluctant to publish anything critical of the drug because they weren't going to receive money. So this Senate inquiry, they found that the pharmaceutical industry was paying people to publish biased stories about the drugs, and there wasn't any, clinical trials. They never knew how the drug worked. So it was all basically to do with money and pushing the drug forward. This is very interesting information which you can find on page 70 of Joanna Moncrieff's book, The Myth of the Chemical Cure. I highly recommend this book. In page 70 you'll find a history of where the drugs actually started from, the story I've just told you about. And that the reason I say this is because nowadays we're seeing lots of stuff in the media of pharmaceutical companies fiddling the figures. I found the NAMI, the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill, in case people never knew, they're actually funded by Big Pharma. So that means a lot of people don't know this. When they go onto their website and NAMI promote psychiatric drugs and promote psychiatry, part of the reason may be because they're funded by Big Pharma. So it's still intertwined in today's stories. There's a case on internet. I saw Dr. Joseph Biederman. He's been promoting biological cause of ADHD, saying that ADHD needs to be treated with drugs and promoting the biological model of psychiatry, and they later find out that Joseph Biederman was given thousands, if not more than $1 million by pharmaceutical companies. So his research is biased. It's not the only way evidence-based medicine can work if there's no bias involved. If you're being given millions of pounds by a drug company, obviously they're going to fiddle the figures or promote whatever the drug company wants them to promote. A few other ones I found on the internet, I'll just quickly read them. The drug Seroxat, Paxil, Glaxo Smith Kline used illegal and deceptive reporting for the risks of its antidepressant drug Seroxat. They marketed the drug as not habit-forming, but experts claim serious withdrawal symptoms. The BBC Panorama documentary, they've done 4 documentaries over 10 years. They show that Glaxo Smith Kline attempted to show that the drug worked on depressed children despite failed clinical trials. Also, they found out that Charles Nemeroff, he suppressed the suicide risks in the data from the clinical trials, and it emerged that Charles Nemeroff received millions of dollars, nearly $1 million, from Glaxo Smith Kline, however only disclosed a much smaller amount. So can you see, if we look at the history of the very first drug, Thorazine, it was embedded in money, business, PR, and you know, that's the way they pushed the drug forward. And today we're still seeing big pharma money and people fiddling the figures. Another case, the drug Seroquel, the drug company Astra Zeneca paid out $125 million for to settle a class action. More than 17,000 patients claim the company withheld information showing Seroquel used to treat schizophrenia can cause diabetes. In trial 15, commissioned by Astra Zeneca, patients with schizophrenia who were on remission were randomly placed on either Seroquel or an older drug. They found people actually did better on the older drug, but they suppressed this clinical trial. Yeah, it goes on. I'll put some links in the description section. There's an interesting one by another doctor, if I've got him here. He was Dr. Eric Turner. He did a study in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2008. He looked at 12 different antidepressants, and he found that psychiatric journals only publish the good clinical trials which were sent to the FDA, and so there's fraud in that. I'll put some links in the description section, but I hope I got a point across showing that psychiatric drugs is all to do with big business, money and capitalism. So next time someone goes on about evidence-based medicine, I suggest you look at the history of where the drugs came from. So thank you for your time, and I hope to do another video soon.